FileMakerTraining.tv, where we're here to talk about the wonderful and fantastic FileMaker platform. My name is Margaret. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. I'm here with the wonderful HOnza, who has also brought on the equally wonderful Karl. HOnza is finishing up, frankly, one of the most fun and entertaining series I think we've had this year, which is his interview series, focusing generally on performance over the past, I would say, month and some change. It's been at least 6 weeks, so that would be like a month and some change. It has been legitimately fantastic. I think I'll make a playlist of it on YouTube. I was getting distracted by that earlier, which is why this is a little late. Basically, HOnza has had this really fantastic series. We've covered a ton of really awesome topics. So we're finishing up our last one for this year with Karl, which will be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I skimmed the topic and I kind of got what we were talking about today, but not a ton in detail. Basically, the way this is going to go, I'm going to hand this over to HOnza and Karl, and they'll pretty much run the show. But if you have questions, you should let me know so I can forward them on to our two wonderful people, and they can proceed to answer all the curiosities that you might have. With that being said, HOnza, what are we doing today?
So, as Margaret mentioned, we are going to talk about performance, and this is, I believe, the fifth episode of this series where I started this as an idea that I'm not the only one who cares about FileMaker performance. There are other people who actually test and fine-tune FileMaker solutions performance, but it's hard to find all those people in one place, or all the knowledge in one place. So I try to bring them together into this single series. And for today, my guest is Karl Jreijiri, who I first saw when he was presenting how to actually find out what FileMaker Pro is doing when communicating with FileMaker server using the not officially public debug log capability of FileMaker Pro, which replaced what was used to be the most common method, and that was using Wireshark. So instead of analyzing packets with Wireshark, having FileMaker Pro actually tell you when it communicates with the FileMaker server, that was an amazing breakthrough, and it made it much easier to find out why things are slow and what's happening behind the scenes between FileMaker Pro and the FileMaker server. And this year, Karl had another amazing presentation at Claris Engage, and that was about testing or simulating many concurrent users of FileMaker Pro connecting to the sim server. So imagine you have a great FileMaker solution and you have a customer with 1,000 users, and the customer comes to you and asks you, okay, will this solution work fine with my 1,000 users? And what are you going to do as a developer in that case? So most of us simply ask or consult the official documentation from Claris, or ask our existing customers who also have many users, and we just kind of hope and pray that it will run fine, because it's really difficult to test in a test environment whether the solution will be running fine with 1,000 users, right? I think until last year, I would agree with this, but no longer, because now I know from Karl that it is indeed possible and not so complicated to test it, how the solution will operate with 1,000 concurrent users. And that's by spinning up 1,000 concurrent users. Is that correct, Karl?
Yes, yeah. If you want to see how your FileMaker application works with 1,000 FileMaker Pro clients, the best way to know that is with 1,000 FileMaker Pro clients, not with anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. So Karl, before we start talking about this great tool that you prepared for this, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get to actually working with FileMaker and testing performance and trying these concurrent users tests?
So I live in Seattle, near Seattle, Bellevue. It's a city east of Seattle in the state of Washington. And Before getting into FileMaker, I used to work in financial technology. And, in financial technology, every millisecond counts, and performance was always on our minds when designing systems. So when I moved to becoming a full-time FileMaker consultant, I still had this kind of thinking in my mind and always trying to understand how things work under the hood to optimize it. So when I'm developing something and I want to think in my mind, how does this work under the hood? And will this be performant? So with that understanding, that's how I can develop in an optimized way. So with FileMaker, obviously, a lot of these things aren't available in public documentation. It's not like Postgres or MySQL. So I had to discover that myself, and yeah, that's how it is. So just to make things fast and optimum, I really want to know how things work, and that's for example, debug logs. I wanted to understand why the network calls when I open this layout are just slow. Why is loading this layout slow? And so by digging in and trying to understand how things work, I found out that there's this thing called remote calls logs. And through these remote call logs in that presentation, I demonstrated how you can really know, like when you click that popover, does the calculation get calculated when you click the popover, or is it when the layout loads? Things like that.
Okay, and what exactly was the trigger for you to start thinking about how to simulate so many concurrent users of FileMaker Pro?
Yeah, so before that, I was working with the Wim on Punisher, and I still work with Punisher a lot. So we had the session with Wim earlier about stress testing FileMaker server. So with Punisher, it was helping me understand what FileMaker needs most in terms of hardware resources, like CPU, hardware, what works best with FileMaker server. And also because most of our servers are on AWS, so it's helpful to know, like, if we switch to storage optimized from processor optimized, or if we switch from compute optimized to memory optimized, which one would be best? Does FileMaker really need fast memory, very fast memory, or very fast storage, very fast processing? So Punisher was helping with that, just like identifying what works best with FileMaker server in general. But I also was interested in knowing how a specific application works in FileMaker, just like in terms of performance. So in production, we have, let's say, an example, 60 users. In development, we only have 1 or 2 or 5, depending on how many developers are working on a project. So how can we simulate just the same number of users? Because we were seeing performance issues when 6 users were connected, not when 5 users were connected. So that was a challenge that I felt like I needed to solve. And they were the best. I started by just opening multiple FileMaker Pro clients on my laptop, and quickly my laptop, the fans started spinning up and couldn't handle it. So I started looking into different ways of how to provision multiple FileMaker Pro instances, not on my laptop, just like on different servers. And I ended up on a solution where I could provision FileMaker Pro, just one FileMaker Pro per server, small server on AWS. And because it's AWS and it's scalable, and for us, it's running on Solana Cloud's infrastructure, we could provision thousands of these servers running FileMaker Pro at any point in time.
So if I understand correctly, there is no way to have a virtual machine on AWS with a like client version of Windows or Mac, but you can run a Windows server on AWS, right? So is that what you used for it?
Yes. So when I say FileMaker Pro instance, it's actually Windows Server running on AWS, and that Windows Server, when it launches, it receives a command from a central server to launch FileMaker Pro and open a specific database, a script, and run that script with specific script parameters. So it's one Windows Server and one FileMaker Pro per actual AWS machine.
Mm-hmm. And I recall you were showing this at Claris Engage, and that was you also mentioned that it's kind of like a faceless version. So can FileMaker Pro run without you actually connecting to the remote desktop of that machine?
Yes, it was very difficult to get to that point because if it's remote desktop, it's way more expensive. We need more resources, more licensing cost, there's Windows licensing cost, so many other things. So I really wanted it in a way that was affordable for developers to do. Otherwise, it would be thousands of dollars every month, whether to use it or not. And so the end result now is running FileMaker Pro in the background with the user interface. It's not accessible to me as the administrator of those servers, just to keep the privacy. Like, it's not even possible. That's just how Windows works. FileMaker Pro, you can see it in the task manager that it's running under a user, but you can't see it. So that's where we're at now.
So does it work like having a virtual desktop environment that you just don't see, but it still exists from the software point of view?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's UI, we usually think of that kind of service as like a server running in the background without a user interface. This one is the same thing, but with a user interface. So any layout calculations, height conditions, all that stuff, they are triggered in FileMaker Pro, unlike a Osos session, for example.
That's quite interesting because I recall one of the things that I discovered when I started doing FileMaker Pro performance testing was that there was significant impact whether I did or did not have a monitor connected to my computer. Because when the monitor was connected, uh, but it might have to do something with like the computer either turning on or turning off the hardware acceleration for the graphic of the graphic card. But anyway, it's interesting that you can actually run a FileMaker Pro, including the whole user interface, which is not the case of server-side script, right? Because server-side script, you can perform like operations like script steps like open window or close window, but those are virtual windows. Those are not proper windows. Like what you're talking about is a proper FileMaker Pro client that really has all those windows open and just not being displayed on a physical monitor, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. So server side, like you said, it uses servers. The other thing about server side is it's running on the server side scripts run on the same server as the database server process. So when you run something, you don't know, is it the server side script that's consuming the CPU, or is it the database server? So by separating those, the test client's running on a different server and just the database server running by itself on the machine dedicated to database tasks, that really makes analyzing and your benchmarks and load tests easier. One thing I found, for example, in the past, I used to always simulate user sessions by triggering server-side scripts through PSOS. And even on beefy servers, I would get to at most 100 users and the server would be super slow. But this one, I was surprised, and FileMaker was handling 500 users with less than 20% CPU utilization. Memory increase. Yesterday, I was running a test, 1,000 users, so 1,000 FileMaker Pro clients. The memory footprint of FileMaker server just increased by 1 GB with 1,000 users, which is quite significant. And it was handling them very well. Now, I mean, my test was basic. It depends. If all 1,000 are running reports, it's different. But it's quite surprising what FileMaker can do in that regard.
Well, that must have improved a lot because I recall with FileMaker 16, every user connected was eating like 100 megabytes of the server memory, at least on the server that I was managing. So if only 1 gigabyte is needed to run 1,000 users, that's amazing. So,
Yeah.
are you able to show something like what the configuration of such a virtual server looks like in AWS? I recall that one of my biggest struggles when I was trying to do something like that was actually dealing with the AWS configuration. I know that AWS offers a lot, but it's very difficult for an average user to even understand what they are offering.
Yeah. There are different cloud platforms, and some of them are more suitable for different types of businesses. For us, we really like AWS for many reasons. Summit Cloud is an AWS partner for a long time. we couldn't find a platform that could scale as much as AWS. Provisioning, clicking a button and provisioning 1,000 servers, we couldn't find even big cloud providers. We couldn't find that. Even if they could, it would be at a very expensive cost, pre-provisioned instances. With this one, we don't have to ask AWS to keep 1,000 servers available on the site for us and pay for them ahead of time, just in case we need them. We just pay for them whenever we need to. And our current capacity is with the tool, with the load testing tool, is 28,000 concurrent agents at the same time. So if all users just provision thousands of users, we can handle up to 28,000, which is quite significant. So AWS, yes, it is difficult to set things up in it, but once you get a hang of it, it's quite useful and scalable with your needs. So you're interested in checking like how I set up that virtual machine that runs FileMaker Pro?
Yes, a little bit of that, so that we can actually see what this is based on, what you're actually doing. So something like what you are showing in at Engage, if you're able to do that.
I don't have I have the other servers running for that demo, but I don't have an actual virtual machine for FileMaker Pro. Perhaps when we run a demo, I can log into one and we can take a look at it. So how about we start with a quick demo, perhaps?
Yeah, so basically, well, maybe better would be saying now and not making it a secret anymore. That based on your presentation at Claris Engage, I recall that you got a lot of feedback of people wanting to do something like you do with testing those simultaneous users. But the biggest struggle for most people were those setup things with AWS. And so you found a way how to simplify it for people, right?
Yeah, so this tool started as an internal tool. I think it's well, thanks to Punisher, you know, with Wim's help, I was able to by resolve the challenges that I had with it. So credit to Wim. I really want to thank him for that. Because it was an internal tool, it was just made in a rough way. Whenever I needed, because I made it, I would just click a few buttons, different scripts running in different places, and then it runs. And then before the Claris Engage session, and even after it, I got so much people contacted me about being interested in using that tool. So I created a web interface to make it easy for everybody, including myself and my colleagues at Soline, to load test. And that tool is now still in beta. Some things might, beta is rough around the edges, so some things might not be working all the time, especially if you're like provisioning, you want to provision 2,000 servers at the same time. Maybe it takes 10 minutes to provision them, not 3 or 4 minutes. Or maybe like once every few times it doesn't work. We're still in that phase at the moment, but that's okay. You just wait a little bit and then click the button again and it works. If you're running 2,000, if you're running 50, 500, 250 simulated FileMaker Pro clients, you're completely fine. You can just use the tool. And so, yeah, the idea behind the tool is to make it easy for everybody, not to keep that technology for ourselves, share it with the community and hear from everybody, their experiences with load testing their applications, and so that we can all learn from load testing FileMaker and help each other out.
So if I understand correctly, you basically have some kind of template server with FileMaker Pro installed, and just by pressing a button, you can clone it 500 times and have 500 copies of that server running and connecting to the same FileMaker server. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So I'll talk about the architecture. So what I do usually is this. First, if I'm setting up from scratch, I no longer have to do that. But when I had to do that a few times in the past, switching AWS accounts and things like that, I provision a new Windows server, 4 gigs of RAM, 2 cores, just like minimum requirements for FileMaker Pro, should be completely fine. And so I provision that, install FileMaker Pro on it. And then I built a custom agent in Python to handle the communication between like a central server where I issue commands for starting a load test and the actual virtual machine that receives the command and launches FileMaker Pro. And the way I do that is, the way I launch FileMaker Pro is through that Python handler. I launch FileMaker Pro with parameters, just like the FileMaker Pro URL. You could put the username and password, server address, file name, script name, and script parameters, all in the same FileMaker Pro URL. Similar to how people put FileMaker Pro URLs in the web viewer to call a script in the parent in the calling FileMaker Pro file. So that Python handler launches FileMaker Pro, and then because all the credentials are within the FileMaker Pro URL and script parameters, just FileMaker Pro opens normally as if it was an actual user. Okay, so what's happening behind the scenes when you click, for example, launch load test? Yes, there is an image for that Python handler and FileMaker Pro sitting in multiple regions around the world, wherever we run that tool. At the moment, it's 7 regions: East Coast, West Coast, Tokyo, Sydney, London, Paris, and Frankfurt. So all these regions have a copy of that image. And when I click load test, I'm actually telling AWS, take that image and launch it. Maybe if I want to launch it 100 times in Frankfurt, launch it 100 times in Frankfurt. So it takes that image and launches it 100 times. And then when it boots up, that Python handler immediately launches, checks if it has a pending command to start a load test, to start FileMaker Pro. If it does receive a command, it launches FileMaker Pro and FileMaker Pro runs. And so at a scale, if you look at it from above, you'll see that it's, let's say, 500 FileMaker Pro instances being simulated. It's 500 instances running 500 of these Python handlers. And at any point in time, they receive a command and they launch FileMaker Pro all at the same time.
Okay, so do you want to show us?
Demos are stressful, so things can break. You have no idea how many times I tested it. I'll share something now. Yeah, if I go to my personal billing page, if I was an actual FileMaker, if I was a user of this tool, this would be my bill. So I tested it so many times. See how many agents I tested it with, and it worked.
4,007 hours. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the number of failures were like, I don't know, less than 2%. But if it fails now in the demo, it's not because of me, it's demo gods or something like that. All right, so I'll log in as just a new user in the tool. The tool is called fmBlaze. It used to be called fmBlaze, and in Claris Engage, we renamed it because it might use things other than FileMaker Pro in the future. Who knows? As a new user, I tried to make it as simple as possible because I don't want developers to feel like they have to learn another new tool. And I think it should be something intuitive and just straight to the point. So you create a test configuration. By test configuration, it's just the components of a FileMaker Pro URL. If I Google FileMaker Pro URL here, there's this documentation page of how you build a FileMaker Pro URL. And so we have some examples here where you put the server address, file name, script name, and some script parameters. You could also put credentials. This is the format over here, so you could put credentials on the account. So you're basically putting that into this tool over here. So test run name, this is just a sample, so I'll just say sample. I choose regions. If I choose all, okay, duration, just you control the test. So what I'm aiming for here is I want to run a FileMaker profile with a specific script, and that script is to simulate a typical user flow. So for example, log in, startup script, and then after the login and startup script, go to the main layout, browse the list of clients, generate a report, create a few records, things like that. That's the kind of load testing script that I'm thinking about that mimics a typical user. And so
this for the developer is something we just have to write ourselves, right? So if we have a real solution that we want to stress test, we just have to go there and write our own script that will simulate a sequence of actions that a normal user would be doing.
Exactly, yes. So this is an example of a script for load testing. So I have this application over here. This is just fake data. It's a person record with some phone numbers, vehicles, and some transactions. And to get an idea about the size of the application, we have about 6 million transaction records and so on, 72,000 almost person records. So the load testing script that I did it doesn't mean that it's the same for everybody. Some applications could be completely different. For me, just for the sake of this example, I have a test layout where a log that I just write the parameters to, the parameters that I launched this script with. I go to the person's layout and table, modify something, and then I enter a loop where I just simulate just going into different tabs and editing stuff. So imagine this, I open this layout, I go to a random record, and then I start cycling through these tabs. I maybe type something like this. It's pretty much, this is what I'm doing, but through a script. You could script all of these interactions in FileMaker Pro, which is just great. This isn't something typical on other platforms. So yeah, I just type stuff and then maybe add a few transactions. These are just empty transactions. So I could do something like this. So what I just showed here in the user interface is what I did in this script. And then I went a little bit further and I said, okay, I'm just gonna go into maybe the vehicles layout and duplicate the record to simulate a new record, creating a record, and then commit. And then after the commit, modify something. And I do that repeatedly for all the tables. So this load testing script, it took me about 30 minutes to write. It wasn't that difficult because I had a good understanding of the platform, of the application, sorry. And I looped through going to a random record, going through the portal, scrolling the portal, and editing records in it. So these are just multiple edit transactions and also read transactions with the server. And then over here, I'm creating and editing records. So this is to simulate creating new records and modifying records. And then at the end, I could do something like go to the reports layout, generate a report, things like that. I'm not doing that, but this is just for the example. When all these tests finish and the loops, so every set of tests runs for 100 times, I create a log record and I exit. So in my case, this load test, when it finishes, it exits when it's done. Now, over here, if we go back to fmBlaze, this duration here is when I want a timeout. So I expect my test to finish in 30 minutes, but I don't want this to keep on running forever. I want a timeout. This is the idea behind this. So there's a helpful message next to each one. So I would say, I don't want this to run for more than 2 hours. And my load test might finish in 30 minutes, but still, if we get to the 120th minute, fmBlaze will just shut down the entire test to protect you from unexpected builds, because you don't want it to run more than 120 minutes.
Okay, so I understand that by spinning up so many instances on AWS, you are paying for every minute, right? And for every instance and every minute running. So this is kind of way to protect you against spending more than you have budgeted for.
Exactly. Yes. Imagine provisioning a server on AWS and forgetting about it, and then getting a bill at the end of the month. Many of us experience that, and it's dangerous. So that's why the timeout here exists, just to protect you from unexpected bills.
So after this time is out, even if you accidentally enter an endless loop in your script, fmBlaze basically shuts down all the instances. Is that right?
Yep, terminates them, deletes them completely. I want to say that for every instance that we provision with fmBlaze, it's dedicated to a specific test. So when I click run for this test, it's going to be a dedicated virtual machine just for your test case. And then when it finishes, we delete it. We don't reuse instances. This is to improve privacy and protect your information. I know people will test in the dev environment, but still some dev environments contain real data, and we need to protect them.
And as an extra benefit, you get just a fresh installation for every new test so there's no impact of like cache data, things like that. Everything is authentic.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, no impact of cache data. It's always a fresh installation. So this is for the duration. Now, of course, you can click stop and you stop whenever you want. You don't, if you want to stop early, you can just click a stop button that I'll show in the back, and you can stop the load test. Now here, just to give you like an idea, estimated price, we have 7 instances running for 2 hours for almost $5 US dollars. The pricing is something that we have examples of on our site, and I'll share the site in a bit. We'll get to it in a bit, but I just want to go over what configuration is needed in this case to launch a load test. So far it's easy. Just you choose how many agents you want to run in different regions. So I'm going to select maybe just 2 East Coast and West Coast, 50 on each side, and 120 minutes. Okay, I can choose one of these 3 major versions. Well, I can choose in our infrastructure right now, we can only have 1 version per major version of FileMaker Pro. So soon we'll upgrade to 21.1 and we won't have 21.02 available. But I understand for people like you, HOnza, it's very important to have multiple minor versions as well, because you do a lot of benchmarks. And so I'm really working on finding a way to make it available so that 21.1 and 21.0.2 are available for you to test.
But I see 120 minutes with 100 instances and only $63. So that means that if I run the test for, let's say, 12 or 15 minutes, I should fit $110 with 100 instances. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
You like it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
very
Okay.
I was afraid of that being much more. So even few hundred would still be at a reasonable price.
Yeah. I don't know why this isn't updating. Sorry, it should have updated, but I have to change the duration every time it needs to update for now. I'll fix it after this call. But yeah, $80 for 1,000 instances for 15 minutes, and 300. This is expensive, but it's 1,000 users.
Yeah, it is a bit expensive, but still proportional to what makes sense for a client for a customer that has 1,000 users, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I'll go back to just 60 minutes, a total of 50 instances. I'm going to choose version 21. Now 19 is no longer in support officially, but I'll keep it available because I know people are still using it. Notes doesn't do anything. It's just for your own sake. And then I don't have a target server here. I'll get to it in a bit. Just give me a sec. Then I choose an account name. So I have a test user over here, and then I put my password. It's very important to know here that we take this responsibility very seriously, that you're giving us credentials to an application. We don't store them in clear text. They're stored in AWS in a specialized secrets manager for such kind of secrets. Once you send the secrets, they are stored in that secrets manager, encrypted at rest to say 256-bit encryption AES, just really secure, and it's audited. So anytime somebody clicks a button to launch a test run, and then and the application fetches these credentials, it gets audited. Anytime these credentials are taken for any reason, just read, it's stored in immutable storage area where we log any access to credentials. So the audited part is taken care of. The encryption and security part is taken care of. No tenant, it's a multi-tenant solution. So if I'm logged in here and I put my credentials and you, HOnza, log in and put your credentials, there's no way for you to read each other's credentials. It's just blocked in a way in AWS that it's not even possible. It took me a long time to secure it, but it's now really tight, and I really like how it is set up. So this in all of this setup, what took most of the time in creating that FMP URL is this.
So I would say it's easier to rob to Karl's house than to steal the password from the solution, right?
Yes, yeah. Just steal my laptop, and that's easier. Oh, you have to decrypt my laptop. Well, if I forgot to lock, yeah, maybe if I forget to lock my laptop. So target file, in my case, the name of my application is fake data. So fake data is the name of the application we have here, fake_data. And the script, let's see what the script name is this, the basic UI flow test. I'm just going to copy it and paste it. Okay, and then if I want, I can choose whatever parameters I want. I could build something in JSON if I want, whatever it is. The help task over here, help text over here says that it's encoded, base64 encoded, sent to FileMaker Pro, and then it's your responsibility in your load testing script to decode that base64 string. And I made it compatible with the built-in base64 decoding function in FileMaker Pro. So the reason why I do base64 is in some cases, some characters were not getting into FileMaker Pro. And just to cover all edge cases, I said, okay, I'll just base64 it, and that's all you need to remember in your load testing script is just remember to decode parameters. And in talking to people about this, they said that they're not expecting to even use script parameters here. But if in case they need to, like, I don't know, put some kind of information here that chooses what the test run does, it's base64 encoded. Okay, any questions so far besides the target server over here? You think I should cover something else?
Well, Marks, are there any questions coming from the other platforms? I don't see anything in Discord yet.
No, I don't see any questions. I do see people agreeing that this is really interesting and that this is extremely cool, which it is. But not any questions as such. So you are good to keep going.
Okay. So the other thing is, okay, so first I had a few goals for the platform. I wanted as many FileMaker developers to use it as possible, just because the more people use it, the better we know about performance in FileMaker, and the better all our applications improve. The second thing, so I wanted to be affordable. The second thing I wanted it to be is I wanted it to be secure. Like I said, the credentials are stored securely, but also I wanted the tool not to be used to abuse other servers. So, somebody could go in and put the address of my server when building a load test and target 2,000 clients to it and try to log in at the same time and probably, I don't know, break it. If somebody forgot that they had auto login in their application, they can easily break it. So an important aspect of fmBlaze is you need to know that you have to be an authorized user of your domain. So over here in the other account, I have examples of a few domains. So this is the address of one of my FileMaker servers, just for testing. And to prove that I own this domain, say it's just 2 over here. But fms.example.com maybe. Of course, it's a demo.
I
So
like this.
when you add
it's an extremely responsible approach, and I like that you are actually preventing people from misusing this tool to do a DDoS attacks.
Exactly.
Or DOS, sorry.
Yeah, I might have broken something. Sorry about it. So when you add the domain, it just asks you to add a few, it's like, I have an example.
So you're using a similar approach as SSL certificate providers, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yes. So, okay, this is an example. So it's just example.com. You need to log into your domain registrar and add a TXT record. So just add this TXT record. And once you add it, few seconds later. You don't have to wait minutes or hours like typical DNS changes. Click check DNS records and we verify it. So that's how we verify that you own the domain, and therefore we connected to actually you owning the FileMaker server behind it. Of course, you could put a domain that points to a server that you don't own. And that's why we force everybody to have a valid SSL certificate. By proving you own the domain and you having a valid SSL certificate, it means that the domain is valid. It's pointing to a server with a valid SSL certificate. So this combination proves that you own the server, and you're free to do a distributed denial of service attack on your own server, but not on anybody else's server. And so when you click test connection, we're testing for the DNS ports, and in Python I built. It took a while, but I'm verifying the SSL certificate on port 5003 as well. And anytime you launch a test run, we do this verification again. We check these tests over here, and we verify the domain.
Okay, that's
so
great.
In case something changes.
So even if I own the domain but point it to someone else's server, it's not going to help me, because without having access to the admin console, being able to install my own SSL certificate to that server, you will not allow me to run the test against it.
Exactly. Yeah. Having a valid domain and a valid SSL certificate is proof that you have complete access, full access, and admin access to the server. And
That's
yeah. And if somebody abuses our servers, it prevents us from being able to use AWS well. So this protects us and protects users as well. So that's how you add domains and test connections over here. So in case fmBlaze can't connect to a server for any reason, this test connection process helps you identify why it can't connect. Right. So this is an example over here we have, and this is another example. So once I verify a domain, it becomes available in the list of target servers over here. Right. So when I was creating a test run configuration over here, I had no domain available to me. That's because I have no domains available here. I need to verify one before starting. While in my test account over here, I have a few test domains that I verified, and I can just use them. So that's the test FileMaker server we have available today for testing. Any questions about setting up a load test? So that's it. That's how we set up a load test. It's a lot, but when you think about it, it's just giving the credentials, URL, FileMaker file name, and script, pretty much, and everything else is optional.
Well,
of course, you have to choose how many.
I still see it easier than configuring FileMaker server. What do you think, Max?
I would definitely agree. You might have talked about this and I missed it. How do you handle the fact that do you need pro licenses? Do you have like several thousand pro licenses hovering off in a corner to get this to work?
That's a very good question, and that's why we kind of delayed. One of the reasons why it took a while to be able to launch this. We needed to get additional information about licensing. So we spoke to Claris about that, and of course I can't provide the same exact details of that conversation. I can't speak on behalf of Claris. Their recommendation is, if let's talk about like a usual user who's not benchmarking FileMaker server in general, but load testing their business application. And usually they have 60 users. So let's just choose one to make it easy. Usually they have 60 users, and the developer wants to test with 60 users. So it's okay to do that. You choose 60 users over here and you do a load test. If you have, of course, speak to your Claris licensing rep and confirm that. It's important. It's just as one-time conversation with them by email, probably. You could also, if you want to expand your usage of FileMaker Pro within your organization, let's say you want to add 15 additional users, but your license currently supports 60. the way I understood it is what it was. I mean, of course, speak to your license rep. I'm speaking on my own terms now. It's okay to put 75 over here because you're thinking about increasing your license count, and you're just checking for a bit, for a while, if you could support that, if your application supports that. And hopefully, fmBlaze will help you increase your usage of FileMaker Pro and licensing seats that you have by evaluating if your application can handle that scale up in your demand for your server before actually buying the licenses. But again, for the 10th time, speak to your licensing rep. I'm only speaking on behalf of myself here. Does this? I mean, it doesn't answer your question, Margaret, but I hope it clarifies it.
I recall one more thing regarding the licensing, and that's when you have a user's license, actually you as a user count as a person, but you are actually legally allowed to use multiple copies of FileMaker Pro because you are still a single user. Although technically it's difficult to differentiate between second user and second copy being used by the same user. And for that purpose, if I recall correctly, FileMaker has some allowance of 15 minutes or something like that before it actually starts kicking users out for exceeding that number of users. So if you run a test that's only 10 minutes long, it's probably going to allow you exceed the license that you have at least a little bit.
I tested it. I tested that a bit. How long does it take until I start getting kicked out of the server? It was more than 50 minutes in my experience, but doesn't mean that people should start doing it. But, yeah, I mean, if your license supports 60 users, the best thing you could do is just use 60 users and increase it a little bit and see, you're testing on a dev server, not on a production server. So you're not risking kicking out live users from the dev server. If they get kicked out, you learn that you have 15 minutes before you get kicked out.
Yeah, but it's a good point that if you are going to actually run a stress test for a client or for a customer that has 1,000 users, you may have to arrange with the customer to use their license for the testing.
Yeah, unless you have a site license or some arrangement in that regard. I think this tool will help people perhaps buy more licenses because it's about scaling up your FileMaker application and making a better use of it. So if you use it better, if it's more performant, probably more people will use it. And to test if it scales up, more people will use it. So it's a tool to help Claris get additional licensing. Licenses. So speak to your licensing rep. I don't think this is a negative thing. It's an exciting thing for everybody.
And by the way, how do you apply that license to the clients, or do all the clients run on trial, and is it only the server that needs the license?
It's this piece of information is still private between us and Claris because we're still clarifying it. Because if I say how we're doing it, it doesn't mean I don't want people to think that everybody. We're still talking about it. It's completely legal, of course, and it's not like a special arrangement for Soliant or something like that. But we have an arrangement where it's completely fine for us to use this tool for load testing, and and what matters here is the licensing on the FileMaker server, not the FileMaker client.
Okay.
Yep, that's pretty much the only private thing that is that I can't speak about in this regard. Anything else, I'm happy to answer any question.
I picked the one question. I'm very sorry, Karl.
No, it's fine. I'm glad you have questions, really. I'm sorry, it's a demo. Of course, the new domain button will not work, but yeah.
It knew. It always knows. You said that it was a demo, and it's like, this is the perfect time to cause problems.
So what is going to happen when you press start now?
For 1,050? Or should we try with less?
Oh, you might want to decrease it for the demo, I guess.
Yeah, the more the riskier. So let's see. Let's do 50 for 30 minutes. This is no longer the sharding test. Yeah, it is the basic test. That's the right server. Okay, I'll just enter the credentials one more time in case I changed it. And so we have 50, and I'm going to click start now. So it's going to take a while, and while we're waiting for it to be provisioned, I'll talk you through again what's happening step by step. It doesn't mean that everybody using fmBlaze has to know this information, but it's interesting. So when I click start, this application server is provisioning 50 AWS instances from that base image that I spoke about, the base image where FileMaker Pro 19 and 21 and 21 installed, and where the Python handler exists. And of course, there's auto update for that Python handler, but just to make it simple, it's these components on that virtual machine image. So this button over here is only available to me as an admin because I'm for my testing, but I can see the status of each agent. So right now, all 50 agents are still being provisioned. At some point, the Windows Server OS will start up, and then will launch my Python handler, and that handler will connect to my application server, send it a message through a queue, telling it that I'm online. I want to register myself as an agent that is ready to receive just commands. And then once it finishes registering, it does a few tests locally on the machine just to make sure that it's completely ready for FileMaker Pro. And then it sends a message through the queue that it is ready. It's ready to receive commands from my application server. So we'll start seeing the 50 trickling down over here all the way to ready, maybe like 20 and then 10, until they're all 50 over here. All 50 are ready. Once all 50 are ready, the application server will send a message through the queue telling all 50 agents that it's now time to run a command, and it will send them the details of the command. It's this FileMaker server address with this FileMaker file name, script parameters, all that information. So all 50 will move from ready to running almost at the same time. So it's part of the load test for all of them to try to connect at the same time. It kind of stress tests your server. It's not like all 50 start going down to running at any point in time, because eventually you'll end up with a maximum of maybe 12 or 15 or 20 running agents and not 50. What we want is 50 agents. So yeah, you see one of them moved to registered and then ready, so it's now 49.
So it's almost like everyone coming to the office at 8 in the morning and starting their computers at the same time.
Exactly. Yep, it's a very good example. You're great at explaining things, HOnza. Thanks for helping me with that. So yeah, we're moving to ready. If perhaps I can, are you interested in looking at an actual virtual machine? Is this something you're interested in? One of these, perhaps.
It would be cool to see what's going on, but I don't know how useful that would be, HOnza.
The only thing that you could see actually is this is my presentation. The only thing that you could see is this. I log in as any user. All I see is FileMaker Pro running in the task manager, and then with this memory footprint, maybe a bit more depending on your application. But that's it. I see a Windows desktop, and if I open Task Manager, I see FileMaker Pro. I see FileMaker Pro, and I can't do anything about it. All I can do is just end it, but I can't see what's happening inside, even as an admin. So we're close, 47. Depending on the number of agents, it can take anywhere between 2 minutes and 5 minutes for all the agents to start running. It's not bad. Even for 1,000, it takes 5 minutes or so. I can make it faster, but that will increase my costs and therefore the costs for users. So to keep the cost low for everybody, I think 5 minutes is okay. You don't have to pay almost double the price, or maybe 30% more, just to save 2 minutes of your time.
So do you mean that AWS even changed the pricing based on how quickly you need that instance available?
There are optimizations in AWS. It's specifically called EC2 Fast Launch, I think. It's a feature where you pay extra and you basically make provisioning these servers faster. I can talk about the details of how it does that, but it's a feature that's well documented, EC2 Fast Launch. Again, AWS does things really well. And if at any point somebody asks me, I want to run tests faster, I can just enable Fast Launch for them, for those accounts specifically, of course, at a higher price. 5 minutes versus 2 minutes, I think is fine. Is not that 2 minute or 2.5 minutes difference is not worth an increase of 30% in cost.
That's nothing. Just drink a coffee and chill for a second.
Yes, yeah, it's a dev tool. It's not like a tool for actual business users, and so the target audience is different. And so I had that in mind. If it was a business user, of course, I'd make it as fast as possible, provision agents ahead of time, and keep them ready. So when you click start, they start within seconds. All of these things are possible, and I'm open to feedback. Any feedback that I receive, HOnza gave me the feedback that we need multiple regions and we need multiple FileMaker Pro versions. If he was a user of this tool, and I added that, and I'm happy to add any other feature that people talk to me about. So it's running, meaning that FileMaker Pro was launched. So now we need to look at FileMaker Pro and see if we're starting to see users connected. Oh, I see 49 log records. What about the admin console? So it's me and 50. Is it 50? Yeah, it's me and 50 clients. Now, because the way we're using servers, sometimes a server says that it is running, but it takes a while for it to actually run and start working with FileMaker. So far we have 49. In my tests, I do it if I think I want 1,000 or 500, I do 510 or 505, and I'll end up with at least 500. Yeah, you see, so now it's 50. It took a while for the 50th agent to log in. For some reason, I don't know why. They're supposed to be all the same instances. But the end result is within, I think, less than 5 minutes, all clients connected. And so now I have 50 load tests running at the same time. So what can I do with this? Of course, I can check this information over here on my server. 50 users running heavy tests. It's not making much of a dent in my server performance. Pretty much okay. But what if I want more than that? So if I want more than that, I go ahead and enable all the logs for my server. I enable top call stats, server stats, all that stuff. And then I can look at the top call stats later on and see how well what's slow in my server. That's for me personally, when it was an internal tool, this is the point. I want to simulate users to see what is not working well, what is not fast on my server. So top call stats is important. And then one thing we could help you with is set up some monitoring infrastructure. If we look at the last 30 minutes. So this is a tool called Grafana. Grafana is an open source tool. There's Grafana Cloud where you could provision your own for free. It's a free tier. It's a generous one. You could provision your own. It's connected to Zabbix. Wim spoke a lot about Zabbix and others in the community. So Zabbix is a tool to collect performance metrics from servers. And in our case, it's FileMaker server. So Grafana over here is just putting all that information in a nice dashboard. It's good at that. It's a visualization tool mostly. So it's a bunch of widgets to visualize the performance metrics collected by Zabbix. For example, I can see here that the number of FileMaker Pro clients increased to 51 from 1 over here. Let me zoom into that. And I just want it to be now. So it's going to refresh every 5 seconds. FileMaker server call times, we're still in microseconds with 50 users, and so on. So over here, I can look at the live performance metrics of FileMaker server, understand how things are going. And even after the load test finishes, I can look back at these load testing results in Grafana and see what I need to improve. Maybe, for example, the disk utilization was really high, and it reached the maximum for my disk performance. Over here, we're still way below the maximum. And my favorite is the top call stats over here. So I can see the top call stats sorted in descending order from total elapsed in seconds. And we can see, for example, over here, it's commit being the slowest, but it's still okay. It's completely fine. It's almost 36 milliseconds. But it's okay. And so I have another tool that I worked on as like the version 2 of observability for us at Science Core. It shows me the actual FileMaker table name, field name, And when I click on it, I see all the DDR information on the side. So all I have to do is click over here in the other tool. We're still working on it, but it's perhaps next time if we meet, I can talk about Datadog. If I click on it, I see all the information about the table, number of records in the table, the calculation definition, if it's an unsolved calculation, global, all that stuff that I need right in my dashboard to understand what's happening over here. So commit records or perhaps query, I click a button, oh, it's an unsolved calculation, and look at that definitions. Quite slow. So now I understand that this is an unsolved calculation that I need to fix quickly. With this over here, the current process is you open your DDR and your DDR report, and you look at table ID 131, and that's how we know that what is table ID 131. An easy way to know that, I always say that thanks to the MBS plugin, it makes it easy. You click show IDs. So 131 over here is the phone table. And so over here, it's saying that query on the phone table is took this much in this collection period. Brief idea about topcall stats, but I want to say that we get in-app transaction information using topcall stats, and that's besides your load testing script. Perhaps in your load testing script, you have some performance metrics that you collect. How long does it take to write, let's say, start GUTC, and then so the delta would be end minus start, and the result would be in milliseconds. So that's how I know, for example, how long this operation took is by taking the start and end timestamps. And probably it should be before the pause. That's it. So as an additional idea about load testing scripts is you can measure your own deltas or just generate fake simulated users so that you generate your own performance metrics under production like workloads.
Yeah, I think it's worth repeating that it's actually everyone's freedom to decide what to put in the script that's running, and your tool is actually just triggering those scripts in as many copies of FileMaker Pro as the developer specifies, right?
Yes, that's the point of this tool, and the load testing script is completely up to you. It's in your hands as a FileMaker developer. You don't have to learn anything specific about load testing scripts. You do them however you want.
I'm going to stack 20 sorts.
Yeah.
Yes. on unsort fields too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that with this very simply looking web interface, you have completely turned it from being able to test so many concurrent users, almost impossible, into making it just a piece of cake.
If you feel like something is not simple in this tool, is anybody listening to this, just let me know. I'm completely open to feedback. The idea here is to make it an affordable tool and a simple tool for everybody to use it.
This is very cool. I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens if you want to run two different kinds of testing scripts? Like, say you have one testing script, it's like the basic UI interaction, and then you've got the other one that's, let's say, it's got 20 sorts in it or something like that, or something ridiculous, like a more reasonable version than like a really like maxed out, my users are all going crazy version. Is there a way to run both of those simultaneously, or would you have to do two simultaneous instances of this? Is that even possible? Does that question make sense?
Yes, of course. So there are two ways of doing this. First, I thought about first one and more complicated one is by having multiple test run configurations. But in the current version of fmBlaze, I only allow one test run to be configured at any point in time, because when I was looking at multiple ones, it felt like I was making it a less intuitive tool. I just thought, let's think about just one test run at any point in time. I wanted this to be the most simple tool you could look at. So you can only have one test run at this point. So therefore, this first method of multiple test runs doesn't work. And so what you need to do in your case is you handle that in the FileMaker script. So the load testing script that is triggered here, in my case, it's basic UI flow test. In your case, it could be like a, I don't know, routing script. And in the routing script, you randomize it. So 50% of users go to that script and 50 to the other script. So in that case, 25 run your highly optimized sorting script, and the other 25 use the other script.
I have a follow-up question. If you don't want to have it random, if you want to have it exact, like exactly 25 users one script and exactly 25 run the other one, can I somehow inside my test script find out if I am the instance number 23, for instance, for example?
Yeah, that's a good
Definitely.
point. So like a agent, kind of like an ID. Each one is called Blaze,
Yes.
Blaze Agent 1, Blaze Agent 2. That's a good. So that's a really good idea for a feature request. I'll put it on my. It's not available right now. All of them are Blaze-agent as the username. So in the future, somebody said you can have get found count. That's a good idea.
But we could actually work around it by simply starting like going to a session table and creating a record, and then every instance will have its own session record, right?
You could do that, but the idea is to make it a simple thing. So by giving you a unique ID for every agent, I think it would be easier, or at least like the serial ID for each one. You could do get user count somehow when they're signing in, but maybe you have multiple ones signing in at the same time.
Mhm.
Session table would work best, yes, but
Yeah,
I think
maybe
we could make it easier. Yeah.
maybe setting a username would be a way to do it, like that the name that you get with get username function.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So get username right now only returns Blaze-agent. So I think
Mm-hmm.
what I could do is put a serial number next to each one. So
Mm-hmm.
Blaze agent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on their order. So the end result is you get a unique username for every agent that connects to your machine, and the number corresponds to their order,
Mm-hmm.
some order. Yeah.
That could be very useful.
Yes. And so the idea behind that, HOnza, is you think you want to specify how many agents you want to direct to different scripts. You want 25 for the first script and 5 to the other. Okay.
Yeah, someone's writing you can have a get found count. I was first thinking about get user count, but I think the problem with that would be that you can spin up way many users in such a fast way that there would be still multiple users getting the same user count, right?
Yeah.
It would not
Yeah,
be.
it might not be accurate in some areas for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. I'm just looking at the previous test where I did 1,000. Let's see. View. This is Zabbix. It's a slow database, even though it's on a fast server. My
Yeah.
new observability platform is extremely fast. I don't have to worry about that. Oh, look at
Anyway,
that. I have something over here.
we are already talking more than an hour, and I think Margaret should kick us out. So I think it's time for wrap up. Uh, maybe the last question should be, how can we get to this tool? You mentioned something about being in a beta stage at the moment. So what do you recommend to people who would like to try it out?
Yeah. So to try it out, just go to Saline.cloud, click OmniBlaze, or you could just do Saline cloud-OmniBlaze. Sorry, / and then you get to the OmniBlaze landing page. There's some information about it. You can watch a previous session, and then frequently asked questions, get some idea about the pricing, for example. And then if you're interested, you click Get Started. Just fill this short form. We need the billing information because we're going to set up billing. You set up this form, and then of course, otherwise I'll send you an email asking you for billing information. This just makes it easier for me. So it's not, it should take maybe a minute to fill it, and then choose how many agents you want. you want this much. And when you submit the form, I'll contact you within almost 24 hours maximum, if not the same day, to set up your account. So this form is to get into the beta program, beta access program. And then eventually, of course, people can just go into fmBlaze, click sign up, and they can get started. But for now, it's not direct. We have to validate users. We want to make sure that people might use this tool to maybe abuse other servers, even though we secured it very well. Their own server, I don't know. It's just we feel like we still want to validate incoming accounts, and also the sign up process is not completely ready yet. So I think everybody looking and listening to this is going to be, of course, accepted almost 100%. But in case there's an email that's definitely spam, it's just those are the only email accounts that will be refused.
So if you want to be bad to you, we can all try to set up an account on the Christmas Eve to see if you respond within 24 hours.
Yes, I'm probably going to respond. I'm very excited about this tool. Yeah, I just wanted to show that over here I had 1,700 FileMaker clients, and look at the CPU utilization of my server. It was still okay, not reaching 100%.
That's really awesome. That's very cool.
Yep, memory utilization, only 6 gigs almost.
There we go. This has been awesome. Thank you both. HOnza, I'll let you wrap up before I let you guys be free and escape the live situation.
Yeah, there are still some feature suggestions coming in Discord, such as allowing different usernames and passwords. But this all can be done in the FileMaker script. So let's not make the fmBlaze too complicated, because we can do a lot inside FileMaker scripts ourselves, and that makes us flexible enough. So, Karl, I would like to thank you for showing this and for creating this for everyone. And as I mentioned, I believe, at least based on the estimated pricing, it seems quite reasonable, especially when we need to do serious testing for our customers. So thanks for sharing this with us, and I hope that many people will not only try it out, but also share their results and what they learn and what they discover with this tool.
Thank you. Yep, thank you for your time here, and I really appreciate that you invited me to this place.
Oh, absolutely. It's been awesome having you both on. Thank you very much, HOnza, for running the series. I will reiterate that before I let you guys go. This has been truly fantastic. I think this is frankly one of the best series we've had all year. We've had a couple real bangers, I think is the modern slang for it. But this entire performance series has been absolutely fantastic, and this has been a really great capstone for now. Thank you very much, Karl. Thank you very much, HOnza. And I will catch all of you people tomorrow, probably. So have a good one.